Hi, guys.
Morning.
Okay. Morning. So this is the technical. We had to switch computer because apparently my computer is giving up, but now this one is giving us trouble also. So maybe it's just me. Uh, maybe I'm becoming e-waste myself. I hope not. Warm welcome and to all our attendees. This session is on innovation and technologies in e-waste management. We have with us so far Serge Kimbel, CEO of WEEEcycling in France. We have Jonathan Quinn from Quinnovations in UK, the CEO and founder, I think. And then we have Bundi, Kotonya, who's the CEO of Naitech here in Kenya. We are expecting Andreas Bonhoff from Landbell Group also joining us in this session soon. And I'm sorry now I've taken up 15 minutes of all of our time, but which gives you guys less time to talk, each of you. And we should also have Adrian from Hinckley, Nigeria, join us. But he's having some technical difficulties as well. So let's see how it goes. And we will start with you presenting, and then we will have a joint discussion afterwards. All right? So may I say, Jonathan, you're first in my list. So kindly would you be the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jonathan Quinn from Quinnovations, which is also part of Blue Planet, which is in the UK, Switzerland, India, and Singapore. We got into waste electronics about 8 years ago. Predominantly, I'm an engineer, so mechanical engineer, then chemical process engineer. Seen a market where the world was changing and there was a need for doing something to make that change. So got involved with various projects for major waste management companies, people like Veolia, Viridor, Sita, Biffa in the UK and also abroad. And then looked at different waste technologies. We actually started with autocatalysts from cars, recovering the precious metals, the platinum, palladium and rhodium. And then started to look at other different waste streams. So the next one we looked at was printed circuit boards from waste electronics, because we've seen a need where the UK was exporting 95% of their waste electronics, as far as Japan, Canada, all across Europe. And then we were actually buying in raw materials. So on the printed circuit boards, there's quite a lot of tin. You send your printed circuit board over to, let's say, Japan. You don't actually get any money for your tin. And then there's places like Indonesia which are mining the tin. So rather than exporting all your waste electronics and then importing raw materials, predominantly base metals and precious metals, we have a chemical process to recover them at source. So it's quite a novel chemical process. So we have an ultrasonic tank, which then we put a formula in, a special formula to remove all the solder pretty much immediately. It's done within about 10 minutes. And then we separate all the separate components out afterwards. So the tin goes into the liquid, into the chemicals as a tin liquid. The lead and the silver precipitate out, and then all the other components, things like the microchips, which have the precious metals, your plastic saved, your aluminium, your copper, so on and so forth. We separate all that materials. So it's actually a pre-smelt process, and it reduces about 85% of your materials needed to be exported. You still need to do your precious metal smelting for your chips, or we are developing a second stage process to try and recover them precious metals in-house. And then we're doing a project with Simone at the moment, with Quinnovations, and that's to recover the materials from the CRT glass. So you've got your big CRT television, you've got your panel glass, and then you've got your funnel glass and your frit line in between. Where we're looking at recovering the lead from the CRT glass, which what we do is we have, again, a chemical process. We actually dissolve the glass chemically, we dissolve the lead chemically, and then we precipitate the lead as a lead sulfide, and then we use the remaining materials, which are impurities precipitate, which contains some minerals and some undissolved glass, and then what's called sodium silicate. Sodium silicate is actually the world's 5th largest traded commodity. It goes into things like soap powder, washing powder, a lot of technology or furniture products as a lacquer. So we wouldn't want to put it into that process. So we put it into giant concrete geopolymer blocks, which are giant concrete Lego blocks. We're doing that in the UK market and over in India. So we're looking at other recycled material that we can put into these giant concrete blocks, and then we use them then in the waste industry as aggregate as waste bays, or in the recycles industry as aggregate bays or retaining walls or piling mats. So yeah, so that's our technology, and we're developing within the WEEE space to recover as much material as possible and stop transporting as much material as possible. Thank you.
Very interesting, and I'll be interested also later in to hear if our other participants or anyone in the scene has heard about these technologies and think about it. For you guys, there is a discussion and Q&A section where you can write any comments and questions during the session, and then we'll pick it up later. Lovely, thank you a lot. And let me head straight over to you. Welcome to the second day of our e-waste conference. The floor is yours.
I didn't hear you very well, Saman, but I think it's my turn. I prepared a small presentation about the company. So I'm Serge Kimbel. I'm also engineer, working in environmental fields since the beginning of my career. I worked 10 years in the water treatment technology, and since 14 years I create the WEEEcycling group, which is worrying about all the strategic metals recovery. So we are now a refining company. And let me try to share my screen, maybe document share like this. Oh, I need to upload. All right. I'm going to share my screen. That might be easier like this. All right. Like this. So I wanted to present some innovation we put on the market as a refiner, present the actual situation and initiatives we see in Africa and how we work on that, and the potential of the urban minings and how to build circular economy systems. So we're working in Africa since mainly 10 years. We see many associations working on dismantling, but always on small quantities, about 50 to 100 tons per year, with mainly manual dismantling. What we see also is that the informal sector is actually collecting far more than the formal one, and we see lots of countries working on a legislation because they're now aware of all the disaster generated by those waste. streams. How do we help the different entities to scale up? By two approach. By regulation, helping them to put in place regulation and responsibility of the producers. But I'm going to focus more on improve the technology and the financial reliability of different process, and how we invest also in different solutions with partners and see really waste as a resources. The potential of Africa, you saw maybe a lot of figures already yesterday. This is the one we collected from the United Nations with a calculation of what it represents in terms of tons of secondary raw materials. So it's the potential of Africa is pretty impressive, but for the moment, not really collected by the pharma sector. What do we do as a refiner? We have a plant, a refining plant is based in Normandy in France. We are certified in ISO certified and WEEEcycling certified. We are treating about nearby 10,000 tons of printed circuit boards per year. And we are actually reinvesting in a new facility. We expand 10,000 square to increase our capacity by 10 because the demand on metals and the demand on recycling of printed circuit boards is increasing. We are organized in different groups, in different companies, and one is really dedicated to Africa. We work in West Africa and East Africa, trying to always win a partnership base where we try to implement processes locally in order that it can be pre-processed at the maximum, and we're even ready to refine on a national base when the volumes will be there. We are acting, as mentioned, in Africa, but always also in different areas from the world, working on all the precious metals, on strategic metals also, as you can see, the platinum groups and the copper and the cobalt also. And maybe I can show you a little video of how we do that. That's the type of technology we develop for doing this. Yeah. So we're working, as mentioned, on thermic treatment and chemical treatment, in order to recover really all type of metals. In order we also get the best recovery ratio, and that's pretty important to help all our local partners to get more material. As mentioned on the previous session, it's difficult to struggle on the market to get the material towards the informal sector. So if we have the best way, the best techniques, we can get also the best recovery with the lowest environmental impact on that. So that's what we try to do in WEEEcycling. Locally, we're also trying to see what can be used as metals by the industrials which are located in the country or in nearby countries, in order we can really create those circular loops with the dismantling companies and with the whole ecosystem. It's really important to see who we will consume, we will use those secondary raw materials. So we need to understand which kind of quality it's needed, which kind of metals, which kind of purity, and which kind of form, in order we can really create those and scale up the process. So that can bring, of course, huge value to the country, to the dismantling, to the ecosystem, in order to build those ecosystems. That's what we've done in Europe so far, in West Africa, and we're trying also to do in East Africa right now. Thank you for the interest.
Hinckley, Nigeria, but you're in UK right now. Welcome, Adrian. See you.
Hi, good morning. How are we doing?
Can you guys hear me, right? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm gone. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's
Adrian,
breaking.
are you there? You're muted.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, now. Hi, Adrian.
Hi.
Welcome. Immediately, I give
Very much.
I've introduced you again already, so the floor is yours for your presentation. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties right now. I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but thanks for sticking there. The floor is yours, Adrian.
No problem. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's nice to meet you all today, and thank you very much for inviting me. So just a little bit about Hinckley Recycling. So Hinckley's been operating in Nigeria since 1998, but we got involved in the recycling sector in 2011, and in fact we became the first company in Nigeria to get the licenses to operate an e-waste facility. So our background has always been in the IT sector. We've since 2001, we've been a Hewlett-Packard partner. We work closely with Samsung, Dell, Canon. And it's through those relationships that we identified that there was a need for recycling activity in the country. So we took it upon ourselves to put a solution in place. And fortunately, in 2016, we were able to get a grant from DEG KFW. And this allowed us to open the first government-approved e-waste plant. Over the past five or 6 years now, we've been very much focused on the processing of hazardous components of the e-waste streams. We put a lot of investment and time into trying to understand what to do with those hazardous fractions. And it's quite interesting to see some of the other speakers today talking about various solutions that they offer and they provide, because This is the main problem that we have in Nigeria right now. We can receive the e-waste streams, and we can process them. We can dismantle them. In fact, we have an abundance of labor, a huge labor force in the country. We have significant energy problems, so it makes a lot of sense to use a manual separation process. So we can get a very clean separation, and we can separate our plastics and our metals. But the problem that we always arrive at is what to do with the hazardous components. Unfortunately, we're not blessed with large number of treatment facilities for things. Let me say, I don't know, batteries, for example, or even printed circuit boards. Although there's great value there, the main problem that we have is extracting that value from those components. So we've spent a great deal of time and money trying to work on that particular problem over the past couple of years. And we were fortunate to be part of a GIZ funded project called ECON, which is the e-waste compensation scheme for Nigeria. And this was looking at televisions and mobile phones in particular. And through that project and working with Closing the Loop, working with the OCO Institute, we were able to start looking at things like maybe the plastics. We know 80% of the e-waste is ABS-FR plastic. Or, there's no solution for that locally in Nigeria. Nobody wants our ABS-FR plastics. So we came up with some really fantastic initiatives. We started working with an organization called Quad Loop, and they were able to actually reuse some of these plastics and create new products. And even the lithium-ion battery cells, we're able to set up testing facilities and start reusing these lithium-ion batteries in second life applications. And in fact, this organization, Quad Loop, we were working with, made solar lanterns. So they actually used the plastics from the TV, the plexiglass, as the casing. They laser cut it, created the casing for these solar lanterns. And we were, as I say, these lithium cells removed from end-of-life solar systems and built some very, very beautiful solar lanterns from that. Obviously, there are batteries, particularly mobile phone batteries, which we couldn't do anything with. But working with Closing the Loop, we were the first company in Nigeria to actually export the cells in line with the Basel Convention. It took a very long time. It was very complex, and it was a lot of work. And obviously, I think there needs to be massive improvements in how the Basel permits are managed and issued. There's a clear lack of resource available in multiple countries in West Africa, from what I can see, making it very difficult to get these export permits in place. So that's something that we certainly need to work on and overcome. I think the most recent project that we've worked on, which is probably of interest, is Hinckley was selected as one of the pilot recyclers for the EPR pilot program, funded by Jeff, implemented by UNEP and the local enforcement agency, Nesrea. And through that program, we collected and recycled 300 tons of e-waste. And that was fantastic. That's given us some really clear insight into maybe, how to incentivize the informal collection network in the country, what is the right level of incentives to offer, and then what type of material do we get back in from these informal collectors. Hinckley has always operated as a B2B solution provider. Basically, that's how we've been able to generate and derive revenue. We've been charging gate fees to organizations and been able to generate revenue and growth through that model. But this is the first time we've actually been able to engage with the informal sector, offer a financial incentive, and then receive feedstock that way to our facility. And that's kind of created a whole bunch of new problems for me, because I'm really getting the waste removed from the dump sites. A lot of it's already been cannibalized. There is really no value typically left in it. All the printed circuit boards, for example, have already been removed. We're really left with some of the really nasty things inside it. So that's been great, but that's been an education not just for Hinckley, but I think for the whole sector and all stakeholders involved in Nigeria, and hopefully that will lead the way for other African countries to implement EPR solutions in their country. So that's a big step, I think. I'll share maybe a couple of slides of our facility. I don't want to take too much time up with presentations, and but let me bring up some slides for you 1 second. I don't know if you can hear me okay. Is it clear? Is it clear? Can you hear us okay? Anyway, no problem. Let me just share some slides with you. Can you see my screen okay? So this is, I mean, as I mentioned, so we've just moved to a new site in Lekki. It's a 1,000 square meter location. Predominantly, as I mentioned, we use manual separation in Nigeria. There is some semi-industrialized processing. Obviously, size reduction is very key, and we work on, obviously shredding plastics and baling our cardboard and washing materials that come with it. In fact, we just purchased a bowl beater machine as well, so we can start to separate out the mercury from CFLs, and again export the mercury, the filter with them, which contains the mercury, to Europe in line with the Basel Convention. Again, major headache, very difficult, but very necessary. We also won a grant in 2019, a part of the Global Leap Challenge. Solar e-waste challenge. This is actually what got us into our looking at second life applications from lithium ion cells. We were trying to, in that particular challenge, we were trying to look at how to deal with end of life lithium ion cells, and we partnered with Lumos on that particular project, and we started getting, we had received about 35,000 cells from Lumos during the project, and we tested 60% of those cells and found that they had second life, they had a useful life in them for second life applications. So it's a really high percentage, which was really encouraging. And we've continued to do that work. We're now working with organizations like MaxNG that make electric motorbikes. We're also we just started working with an organization called Coolbox, who make solar fridges, looking to see how we can at least support their lithium ion cells. So we work with a large number of solar companies like Ulu Solar, Pass Solar, D-Light, NG, and the focus here is trying to reduce their costs by, obviously, one of their main costs is importing these battery packs into the country. If we're able to repair those packs, that can help and goes a very long way. The other thing that we're doing is converting some of these lead acid battery packs into lithium ion packs. So we actually take the casing from the lead acid pack and replace that with lithium ion cells. So that's also something that we're working on right now. And that all comes from on the back of this Global Leap Challenge grant back in 2019. This is one of the dump sites that I visited in Nigeria. This is very common. I'm sure we see this in many countries across Africa. But this one was in Ogun State. But I think Lagos has one of the largest dump sites in Nigeria, in Africa, Olososum. But often these places just get set on fire and just get all sorts of horrible toxic gases being released. E-waste is there. You obviously see the real junk of e-waste. You don't see any positive fractions. You only see, as you can see here, an old CRT plastic, ABSFR plastic screen, which will just get burnt. It has no value to them locally. we all understand the impacts of the e-waste. This is the Olososhan dump site in Lagos, as I mentioned. This is one of the largest in Africa, which was burning for over a month. There's a very densely populated area with schools nearby, people living and working in and around this smoke. Nigeria is one of the largest generators of e-waste. These numbers come from UNU, but Nigeria generates over 219,000 metric tons of e-waste per annum. Comparing that to, say, our neighbors Ghana, who are only generating 39 tons. So really Nigeria is one of the countries that needs to be focused on. We've spent a lot of time looking into the battery sector. We understand the implications of concentrating to the earth to mine cobalt. And we understand that it makes a lot more sense to focus on urban mining and trying to extract some of these precious metals from the material and close the loop. There's still a very large informal lead-acid battery recycling sector operating in the country too. I think there's over 20 known informal lead-acid battery recyclers. And I know that there's an article called Dying in Installments. It was published by Business Day. If you ever get the chance to go on Google and Google Dying in Installments Nigeria, you should read that article. It's very powerful. And it actually showed that the level of lead inside the children who are playing and living in and around these informal battery recyclers, their blood levels were like 10 times higher than what the World Health Organization would allow, and their threshold. And definitely that will lead to brain development issues and fertility issues in these children. So this is really something very significant where more needs to be done. There is legislation in place in Nigeria. Since 2011, they've had the electronic sector regulations, but unfortunately, the enforcement still needs to be improved. Still a lot of organizations and free riders still operating in the country, and this makes things very difficult for us. Some more photos of our facility. We offer ITAD solutions as well. We're very much focused on this as historically, Hinckley has been a strong player in the ICT sector. So this is another way that we're able to generate revenue and offset some of the costs we're incurring from managing the hazardous waste streams. We do a lot of, as I say, we did this a few years ago, engaging with the informal sector, and we did medical checkups and trainings. But what we obviously know, and we already knew then, I suppose, was that the only way to really work with the informal sector was to offer them financial incentives that would encourage them to come and bring their material to Hinckley. And that even with all the training and all the PPE and the medical checkups, that they would probably go back to their modus operandum, and with little regard for their safety in order to generate income for themselves. But as I mentioned, with the EPR project that we've been working on with Nesrea UNEP, we've now finally been able to start offering them those incentives. But obviously, before they can work with Hinckley, they have to follow some guidelines and ensure that they have PPE when they're doing collections, make sure that they come for regular medical checkups, and then also we support them in opening bank accounts so that we can transfer the money to them, make sure they get a fair pay for the work that they're doing. This needs to grow. I mean, there's over 100,000 informal collectors in the country right now. So this is really just a drop in the ocean, what we're doing. But hopefully as EPR is fully implemented, then we'll be able to increase that by some magnitude. We work with Nesrea, which is the federal enforcement agency. We also work with LAUMA, LASEPA as well in Lagos, which is the state enforcement agencies. Do a lot of awareness raising. We've worked with OEMs, we work with government, We work with, the private sector, trying to bring everybody together. So this is an event we held in 2015, focused on EPR implementation. HP were there, Sony were there, Dell were there, Nisrea were there, Ministry of Environment were there, UNIDO were there. And I think this was the beginning of trying to get to where we are now. This pilot that was just finishing now started at meetings like this. So it's taken a very long time to get to where we are, and hopefully we can see full implementation very soon. But as an organization, we're keen and very focused on job creation, supporting women in the workplace, and we're now doing workshops focused purely on women in the informal collection sector, trying to engage with them more, and ultimately trying to protect the environment from the thousands of tons of hazardous waste which are being dumped. We know e-waste is the most hazardous waste form on the planet, and we're passionate about making sure that doesn't end up in the dump sites in Nigeria, and that's our mission. So I think I'll probably end it there. Thank you very much. I hand over back to you.
I'm sorry about that. Anyway, this is lovely. Excuse. I seem to be there. Are you still with me?
Yes, we can still hear you as well, Simone.
We're looking at each other in the room here. This is the reality of African Wi-Fi and internet coverage. In the middle of the city. Yesterday in our facility, we had a full stop due to no power supply, and our generator also decided to die. So nobody can do anything after a few hours when all the laptops also had drained all the power. So this is what happens. But anyway, I'm so grateful. We were supposed to have another participant. Bundi was here, but I don't see him now. And also, we were waiting for Andreas from Land Group. Anyway, we've covered the timings. Okay, maybe we switch off the cameras and just be best. So let me do that. I let you guys turn it off first, maybe. So, I do have an image of myself. Representing. So I was thinking now, when we hear about this, if we start with where we just ended off in Nigeria, and we know that you guys got the EPR regulations in place and a PRO in place already in 2018.
Okay,
we
perfect.
Have
thanks. Bye-bye.
Lovely. Welcome, Andreas Bonhoff from the Landbell Group. You're the Chief Supply Chain Officer.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I just managed to come in, so I was just listening. So I suppose I was logged in with the wrong credentials. Thanks a lot for the opportunities. Maybe a question regarding timing. So how much time I have? Because I think this discussion is more important than my presentation. So how you plan the remaining time?
So yes, since we have a tea break at 11:30 here, which is very soon, but we can scooch that one a little bit because we only have one of the startups who will present. So we will let him do that, of course, but we can take a 5-10 minutes out of the tea break also. So we'd be happy to hear at least who you are, what you do in Landbell Group. I know you have PROs in several countries, for instance, but also the technologies that you've seen are groundbreaking maybe, or sometimes I'm thinking, we need to benchmark and we need high technology, but sometimes
manual labors, like for instance now also when Hinckley is using manual labor, it's not only to be very thorough in dismantling, but it's also practicality when you don't have electricity all the time, right? So we would love to hear some words from you first on that.
Okay, thanks a lot for the opportunity. Yeah, so as I said, so Andreas, thank you for the nice introduction, Simon. So I'm the Chief Procurement Officer of the Landbell Group, responsible for our operation. So Landbell Group is active. Origin is Europe. So there our main activities is in Europe, where we operate take-back schemes, producer responsibility organization. But actually, we are expanding since 7 years already outside of Europe, and also active on the African continent. So we have several, let's say, activities. Also, we worked already with the WEEE Center on the recovery of or reuse of lithium batteries, and in some other circumstances. So actually, I was asked here a little bit to present innovations from Europe, which is quite difficult. I was told I have 7 minutes. So, and basically, I'm doing this since 30 years, and it's a little bit difficult to present, to give an overview on European innovations in this short time frame. Therefore, I would actually only give, let's say, my personal opinion here, and invite you to follow up, whoever is interested actually in that matter, who have question, who want on one hand to know how systems are working in Europe, but also in other continents, neither in Asia or in South America. Please reach out to me, and I'm really happy to support here, or one of our colleagues or one of my colleagues will be definitely able to support you here. Actually, now moving to technologies, I want to maybe give one example. So I'm actually always careful with high technology versus mechanical separation. The biggest and most successful CRT recycler in Europe, and the only one who is still actually in business and have a throughput still of around 40,000 tons of CRT glass, have never ever done any large automation processes. So there is still one of the major technologies he applied for processing CRT glass, flat CRT screens, is actually a hammer and a screwdriver. So, and this company is also not located in a low-cost labor in Europe, but in Germany. So you see that in Germany, low technology can be give you a competitive advantage compared to high technology. So therefore, I'm really much more a fan of simple technology, and I still believe, even working in Europe, that a simple hammer and screwdriver is one of the most important tools and technologies in our industry. So said that, I would also not only stop at the simple technology, but give you also some, let's say, outlook on the European market. And actually, new recycling technologies are driven in Europe mostly by the change of the products we are processing. So, for example, just to give you a few examples, on one large part is the treatment of refrigerators, and the target in fridge recycling is the destruction of CFCs. However, CFCs were banned in Europe already 25 years ago. There's still significant volumes inside, but of course the CFC is reducing, and we have much more pentane. And this shift of technology from CFC to pentane as refrigerant have an impact on the industry and need an adoption of industries. So where we have new technologies. Another one is the shift from in displays, on one hand, from CRTs to flat panels, and then within flat panels from CCFL backlights to LED backlights. So all three technologies require different recycling technologies. So typically with an CRT, actually screwdriver and hammer is the most suitable process for dismantling. Where in flat panels, it's getting already a little bit dedicated, specifically with CCFL backlights in the background. And then the another matter is what already was mentioned by a lot of the other speakers, is the demand, the increase of lithium-ion batteries in products. So 10, 15 years ago, lithium batteries were only in mobile phones and notebooks, and they could be very easily removed. But now lithium batteries are more and more embedded in electronic products, so they're glued into notebooks, into mobile phones, but also plenty of other device applications, which really cause a change of the European recycling industry, because both logistics have to be adapted, because you have a lot of fires in the logistic as well in the treatment centers. So, and here's really a challenge to remove these lithium batteries from WEEE. And here again, that is mostly a mechanical process. So there's actually no good technologies available until today how to remove lithium batteries from built-in lithium batteries from WEEE appliance. On the treatment side, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of development, how to recover black mass, how to shred lithium batteries, either under nitrogen atmosphere or under water systems, and also pyrolyzers. There's plenty of new technologies arising in Europe, tested also, and I have to say not only in Europe, because actually processing of lithium batteries is advanced in Europe, in America, in North America, and in Asia, where still the black mass processing is predominantly made in Asia. So that should give you just an outlook on new developments we have in Europe and actually globally, and should be only a teaser to invite you for, let's say, closer discussion. And we're very happy actually here to support and to give you an insight and help and consultancy in these areas. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Andreas. That was really great to get your overview. I think you summarized it very well. Basically, we can conclude that new technology and development also demands new technology when it comes to taking care of different devices. We have another one in this session who has been in and out, Bundi, and from Naitech. I wanted him to have a word as well, but now I can't see him. So we'll continue a little bit. How is it now with governmental support? You act in different countries, Andreas. Adrian, you guys are in Nigeria and some other countries. We know that there is need of a lot of grants and projects, investments, but basically, my firm belief is if we can get governments really committed, that's when we're going to see fast forwarding in all this development for Africa. So how do you perceive that support? Is it better or worse somewhere, some countries that are sticking out, etc.? Did you lose me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Andreas, do you feel that there are any countries that are more, what would I say, forthcoming when it comes to the governmental support for?
So, for in which continent? I have to say. So it's of course difficult to answer that question.
This is an African conference, but we are benchmarking, of course. And if you feel, well, suddenly, I don't know, I'm just making this up, Malaysia proved to step up their government or something. If you have some examples, that would also be very interesting, because maybe we can connect and benchmark with them then.
Yeah, so definitely. So if you look to on a global scale, on one hand, South America is actually advancing on different cases. So there's plenty of initiatives which, to my judgment understanding, could be also comparable to some initiative in Africa, definitely. And basically the other hub is in Asia, let's say around Vietnam, where there's a lot of activities, a lot of things are ongoing, and where I can see also some similarities, which in all cases are driven by EPR regulation. So this is really, I think, a global trend. Also in WEEEcycling is really leading here. So if you generally count on the EPR regulation around the globe, the penetration, I don't know if there is the right word, but in packaging and batteries, which are the two other categories which are of relevant, you have basically a rollout globally of 20 to 30% of all countries, with a high concentration in Europe. So, but WEEE is really a global phenomenon compared to other waste streams.
Are you there? You're back and forth. So you are muted.
Hello. Can't hear me.
Now we hear you. Now you're muted again.
Okay, I'm back up. I think. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
So Bundi represents.
First, my apologies. My network.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're going to have to. It seems impossible to hear. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so you need to do this very fast, Bundi, extremely fast, kindly.
Yeah, give me 3 minutes. So a quick thing. I'm sorry, my network has been really bad today, and mixed up with the short notice. I somehow had to make things work. So you may not be able to see my face after this or during this presentation. So a quick thing. I am Bundi Kotonya Daniel, a registered engineer working in Kenya, running a company called Naitech Technology Innovations, in short, Naitech. And our focus is in creating solutions for the African market and generally the global south. Solutions that are customized for our realities. And 3 years ago, we started a project called Nai for Earth, which creates solutions around SDG 13, which deals with climate action and environmental conservation. And in that, we've been able to create solutions for a number of entities, including government entities, private and government. And we have presence in Zambia, Kampala, Uganda, Nairobi, Kenya, and most recently, Burundi in Bujumbura. To make this short, I'll not present a case study, but I'll just rush through digital solutions that help in e-waste management and awareness creation. And of essence, I considered is to talk overally about some of the mistakes we are making and the trends that are emerging. So if you'll allow me, we have so that's my name. We've covered that. We are looking at what are digital solutions, the entire scope of digitalization and digitization, how tech and digital solutions can be a product and a tool in e-waste management, and the role of e-waste in the entire ecosystem. So I think the presentation is there, everybody will go through that. We are looking at can digital solutions be deployed in a more effective way, more cost-effective way, to achieve results more conveniently. And to do that, I think we've been trying to make sure that all the entities we work with, given that we are not a recycling company, we are a tech company, we try to look at how we can help them globalize their solutions, the value chain and how the solution can be scaled, how that can be standardized, how we can virtualize what has primarily been or traditionally been a brick and mortar business, how to cover niche in new markets, and then how to handle the big data, as a policy to inform government policies, to inform some of these roundtable discussions and similar meetings, and how to create analytics from the same. So as we proceed, let me touch shortly something we are doing with the WEEECenter called the e-waste management system, where we are running a centralized system that enables WEEECenter to run its collection across the continent, through its agents, control the agents remotely, and then be able to run its stock remotely across the continent also, and be able to offer points, incentives, and do carbon credit calculations, standardized carbon credit calculations across various geographical demarcations. And this of course has come in as an innovation, which most of the tech is, but this has come in as an innovation across the value chain that WEEECenter is running. But we noticed that it's something that can be deployed across several other entities. And as we were doing our in-house pilot, we got interest from Kampala, the Kampala City Authority, who actually asked to use a similar system in Kampala to manage e-waste management, to manage their e-waste collection, across the city. And this is where now we come to the point of how do we get to use our digital solutions to standardize and scale collection, not just for e-waste, but for all waste, because again, when all is said and done, we are driving towards a waste-free or a waste-reduced economy, and circularity for that matter. So allow me to, I think I have 1.5 minutes left. Allow me to talk about some of the factors to watch out for when giving out these solutions or creating these solutions. Sorry, yes?
Bundi, we need to cut off. I'm sorry.
Hello.
We have the next session. Hello. We have the next session starting in 3 minutes.
Okay, so let me then ask that this can be shared with the audience, and then
for sure,
we can handle the discussion questions later. Thank you.
Lovely. So I'm sorry for the inconveniences with all the technical matters. We hope to solve this soon. We're trying different solutions. I'm very grateful. Thank you, Bundi, for sharing that, because that was also where I wanted to come in this panel discussion with bigger players who have been around for a long time. As much as we need the technologies for recycling, we also need the administrative technology to create a smooth operations, which is many times overlooked, and the capacity building around that. When we are approached by companies who wants to invest, or they might want to make act, and they are so focused on creating jobs, but they often forget about the operations. Just like you also said, in Nigeria, there is so much to be done, both in capacity building internally, but also awareness creation and all of that. So not only employing people and start unscrewing things, right? I would love to have a very short sentence from each participant, rounding off this session. So we will start with Jonathan, if you're still with us, from Quinnovations, and then we go for Serge from WEEEcycling France. Then we have Adrian from Nigeria, Hinckley, and Andreas from Landbell and Bundi. Kindly, one sentence rounding off the impressions and thoughts going forward, or whatever you want. Kindly.
Maybe I start. We see major opportunities to solve the e-waste issues in Africa, many opportunities to grow our business together with local entities. And this is increasing since a couple of years. So we're very excited to help and to bring technologies locally. I think when we see the volumes which are generated and the increase of those volumes, it makes some interest and from sense to invest locally and to bring technology directly to the country in order to bring circular economy in Africa.
And then we had Adrian.
Yeah, I think my senses will be we need EPR in more countries in Africa. This will bring more investment, and then this can then bring more technology, which of course is needed in certain applications when fractions, particularly hazardous fractions, are complex and can't be treated locally, and exporting these fractions is complex, can be difficult, and it makes sense to do these things locally, create more jobs and create more wealth within the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Andreas?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so to summarize and also, let's say, reinforce what was said by Adrian, I suppose financing is everywhere on the globe necessary, so EPR solution will be the key, and we're very happy here also to support. And coming back to the technology, so from the various technology involving and my perception of the recycling market in Africa, I suppose that probably something about lithium-ion recycling will be probably the most closest technology which I see employed in the African continent.
Thanks a lot. Jonathan, I see you're back with us. Kindly.
Yes, sorry about that. I had a technical issue.
If you could kindly give us a closing remark, just one or two sentences.
I heard the other presentations earlier that we're always about collaboration, not competition. So I'd be very interested to get connected with everyone who's been on today and look at doing something to make the world a better place.
Thanks a lot. Bundi, are you still there? We seem to have lost him. All right, that was beautiful. Wonderful. I shouldn't say any more after that. We need each other. We can't walk this journey alone. And I want to thank you all very much for coming in, tuning in, and also sticking through these technical difficulties. Thanks a lot. I look forward to continue engaging with all of you going forward, and hope that more people will do so. Have a great time.